Welcome to this presentation on pace and learning, in our Build the Team, Strengthen the Sport series. Whether you're leading an officiating crew or developing your skills as a team member, understanding when to move fast and when to move slow is fundamental to seeking excellence. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll explore the science behind effective learning, and how to apply it in our track and field officiating environment. There's a common misconception that fast execution is always better. That's not true. As officials, we operate in multiple contexts simultaneously. We're learning the rules, developing judgment skills, communicating with athletes, coaches, referees and other officials, and making real-time decisions. Each of these demands a different pacing. Think of it this way, you wouldn't use the same pace to explain false start rules to a new official, as you would to execute a start decision. Context drives everything. Three main factors determine pace. First is skill acquisition, where we are in skill development. Second is communication effectiveness, who we're communicating with. In other words, what's our audience? The third is productivity demands, the outcome we're trying to achieve. What's our goal? Let's begin by talking about when to move slow. The research is clear, ultra-slow movements are most beneficial for refining skills once you've already achieved about 25 to 30% success. This is crucial. If you attempt slow deliberate practice too early, when you're still making frequent errors, it's often ineffective. Why? Because you're not generating the necessary mistakes and proprioceptive feedback required for initial learning. Think about a new umpire learning to mark hurdle clearances. They shouldn't do ultra-slow video analysis on day one. They need some baseline competence first through normal speed observation and feedback. The progression is, first, build basic competence through varied practice. Once you reach the 25 to 30% threshold, then introduce ultra-slow analysis to refine technique and address specific errors. Research shows that slower learners, and we're talking about the pace at which information is processed, not intelligence, are often more accurate and flexible. They revisit and reconsider information, which leads to better outcomes in complex tasks. This is especially relevant in officiating, where we're dealing with nuanced rule applications and judgment calls. When communicating with your team, research recommends speaking at 150 to 180 words per minute. This isn't arbitrary. At this pace, your audience can absorb complex information, process it, and ask clarifying questions. Slowing down when you feel nervous or when you're hitting key points of emphasis prevents monotony and keeps your audience focused. As a team leader, if you're presenting a new rule interpretation, this is your pacing baseline. Mix in strategic pauses and variation, but maintain this foundational speed for clarity. We talk a lot about multitasking as a virtue, but research suggests otherwise. Slow productivity is highly effective when you tackle tasks sequentially rather than juggling multiple priorities. In an officiating context, this means handling your responsibilities one by one. If you're the starter, focus on starts before worrying about finish line coordination. If you're managing finish operations, handle that systematically. Dedicate substantial time to one goal before moving to the next. As a team leader, you might structure your crew briefing this way: start rules first, then finish protocols, then field event management. As a team member, if you're learning hurdle umpire duties, don't try to learn starting, finish line, and field events simultaneously. Master your position, then expand. This sequential approach prevents confusion, ensures consistency, and actually speeds up overall efficiency because there's no cognitive switching overhead. Now let's flip the context. When should we move fast? First, iterative learning through mistakes. The goal is not to avoid mistakes, but to make them quickly. Why? Because faster mistakes lead to faster learning and momentum. Here's the key: you must remain committed to the overall direction while staying flexible with your methods. In officiating, this might mean you're committed to making accurate start calls, but you're willing to try different positioning or timing strategies to find what works best for you. Run drills, make calls, get feedback, adjust quickly. For new officials, this might look like making calls on every heat during a practice meet, even if you're unsure. You'll get feedback quickly, and you'll learn faster than if you were tentative or overthinking every decision. Officiating in track and field often involves millisecond precision. A false start decision, a relay handoff violation, a lane crossing judgment. These require instantaneous accuracy. Professional training in high-precision fields focuses specifically on increasing thinking speed and reaction time. You can't deliberate for 5 seconds about whether that athlete broke the line. You need the cognitive automation that comes from deliberate practice at speed. This is where accelerated training drills become essential. Simulate competitive conditions, run scenarios quickly, and make decisions under time pressure. As a team leader, this means periodically running your crew through rapid-fire scenario training. What if an athlete crosses the brake line early in a 1600? What if there's a collision on the turn? Quick answers, quick feedback, quick refinement. This builds the neural pathways needed for split-second decisions. Fast pacing also applies to how you deliver information. While you should avoid speaking so quickly that people can't follow you, alternating between slow and fast speech acts as a hook that keeps listeners engaged. If you're presenting rule changes to your team and you maintain a monotonous, constant pace for 15 minutes, people zone out. But if you vary your speed, slower for complex rule details, faster for enthusiasm and energy, you maintain engagement. This is especially true in pre-meet briefings or training sessions. Mix pacing intentionally. It signals importance, maintains attention, and makes your communication more memorable. Let's synthesize this into a clear progression strategy that applies whether you're a team leader designing training or a team member planning your development. Start slow, at 0 to 25% accuracy. Your focus is on refining technique and building foundational understanding. You're not concerned with speed, you're building muscle memory and decision-making frameworks. Maintain slow, at 25 to 30% success. This is where ultra-slow, deliberate practice becomes valuable. Analyze what's working, what's not. Get detailed feedback and advice. Build precision. Once you reach 30% success, introduce fast. Now you're ready to accelerate without losing accuracy. Start gradually, increasing speed while maintaining precision. Maintain fast in competition conditions. You're now competition ready and maintaining your performance under real-world pressure. This isn't linear, you might regress to slow practice when learning a new event or rule, but the overall progression from precision to speed is clear. Here's something counterintuitive. Forgetting plays a crucial role in complex learning. Your brain stores memories using overlapping neural assemblies, which means memories often compete with one another. Forgetting helps clear away less relevant information, preventing what I'd call hoarding of unnecessary data. Think about this in officiating. You need to remember the specific rules for high jump, long jump, triple jump, and different track events. That's a lot of overlapping information. If your brain stored everything with perfect clarity, you'd have information congestion. Strategic forgetting helps your brain efficiently retrieve the specific information you need, when you need it. This is why spaced repetition is so effective. When you revisit content after a period of forgetting, you force your brain to engage more deeply, which strengthens connections and improves long-term retention. As a team member, this suggests you shouldn't cram all your rules learning into one session. Space it out over several shorter sessions. As a team leader, don't overload crews with every possible scenario in one briefing. Revisit important points across multiple meets. This connects directly to what we call error-driven learning. The process is, test yourself before you know the answer, receive feedback, and use that feedback to suppress connections related to wrong answers, while enhancing connections to correct ones. Here's a concrete example. Rather than reading the false start rule, have your new officials predict whether a scenario is a false start, get feedback on their prediction, and then discuss the rule. The prediction forces active engagement. The feedback triggers the brain's error correction mechanism. This approach is significantly more effective than passive learning. When you make a mistake and receive feedback, your brain actively refines its model of understanding. As a team leader, implement this in training, pose scenarios, get predictions from your crew, and provide feedback. As a team member, Seek out opportunities to make predictions and get feedback rather than just listening to lectures. From a team leader's perspective, your job is to orchestrate the pace of learning and communication for your crew. This requires several things. First, assess each member's skill level. A veteran official who's done 50 meets needs different pacing than someone on their third meet. The veteran can handle fast scenario training, the new official needs foundational slow practice first. Second, provide spaced, error-driven practice opportunities. Don't conduct all your training in one intensive session. Space it throughout the season. Design scenarios that require prediction and provide feedback. Third, communicate rules at an appropriate speed for your audience's level. Slower for new officials, varied for mixed teams, with specific emphasis on complex or recently changed rules. Fourth, and this is critical, create a safe environment for mistakes during learning. If officials are afraid to make mistakes, they'll avoid putting themselves in situations where they can learn quickly. Frame mistakes as essential learning data, not failures. From a team member's perspective, your role is to take ownership of your learning pace, and actively seek the conditions that promote growth. First, seek slow, deliberate practice in your early stages. Don't jump into high-pressure situations before you're ready. Ask your team leader for foundational training and mentorship. Second, embrace mistakes as learning opportunities, not as evidence of incompetence. When you make a call incorrectly and get feedback, that's valuable data. Engage with that feedback deeply. Third, practice rules through spaced repetition and testing. Don't cram. Use flashcards. Many of us use the application on key. Quiz yourself on scenarios, and revisit content across multiple practice sessions. Fourth, request feedback and adjust your pace as you progress. If you feel ready to accelerate from slow to fast practice, ask your team leader about moving to scenario-based, rapid decision training. Your growth is a partnership between leadership and personal initiative. Take responsibility for understanding what pace you need and communicating that clearly. So, how do you actually apply these concepts to meet preparation? During your team briefing, here's a suggested approach: review complex rules together sequentially. If you're discussing false starts, spend focused time on that. Don't jump to field events mid-discussion. When that's covered, move to the next topic. For decision-making, run through quick scenarios at a faster pace. What if the athlete breaks? What if they're not set? What if there's a recall? Quick answers, quick feedback. This builds the neural automation you need for competition. In your communication style, vary the pacing. Slow for complex details, faster for emphasis and energy. This keeps the briefing engaging and makes key points more memorable. As a new official listening to your first briefing, you should be taking notes during slow parts and mentally engaging with quick scenarios. During competition, different pacing rules apply. On the field, things, and you, move fast. When you're making judgment calls, start decisions, lane violations, relay handoff calls, you need decisive, rapid execution based on your training. This is where all that practice pays off. In communications with coaches, athletes, referees and other team members, you typically move more slowly and deliberately. If you're explaining why a call was made or discussing a rule interpretation, take your time. Use clarity and control. Speak at your 150 to 180 words per minute baseline. Also, vary your pacing based on the intensity of the situation. In a close relay race at a state championship level, your internal pace is fast, your thinking and reactions are accelerated. Your external communication might be appropriately slower and more measured to maintain control and clarity. Remember, fast execution, slow communication. Let's summarize the core principles of pace and learning. There is no universal pace. Context is everything. The right speed depends on what you're doing, where you are in your development, and who you're communicating with. Slow early, fast later. This is your progression. Build precision first through slower, deliberate practice, then accelerate as competence grows. Mistakes matter, They're not obstacles to success, they're fuel for learning. Create conditions for quick mistakes and rapid feedback. Team alignment. Team leaders guide the pace and create safe learning environments. Team members take ownership of understanding what pace you need and communicating it. Find your rhythm. Excellence in officiating isn't about moving at a universal pace. It's about understanding context, leading with intention, learning with patience, and executing with precision. As individuals and as teams, your job is to find the pace that matches your context in each moment. Lead with intention about when and why you're moving fast or slow. Learn with patience, especially early in your development. Execute with the precision that our sport demands. Thank you for investing time in your professional development. As you go back to your teams and your competitions, I want to leave you with this: build the team. Strengthen the sport. That's your role. That's your opportunity. Every meet you officiate is a chance to demonstrate these principles and model them for others. Every team member you develop is someone who will go on to influence the next generation of officials. I encourage you to have these conversations with your teams. These principles aren't meant to live in a training room, they're meant to shape how we work together. Thank you, and let's go strengthen track and field through officiating excellence.